Vielen Dank, Professor Pries, und herzlichen Glückwunsch für die Übernahme der Präsidentschaft des Weltgesundheitsgipfels. Dear Dr. Tedros, lieber Jens Spahn, distinguished guests, it is an honor for me to be once again a patron of the World Health Summit. You might remember when we met 1 year ago, I told you about the first steps that we had taken to increase cooperation inside Europe. The world was caught off guard by COVID-19. No country was truly prepared to tackle a health emergency on this scale. 1 year ago, we didn't even know whether a safe and effective vaccine would be available. We had to learn how to scale up vaccine production, and we had to implement the largest vaccine program ever. Today, more than 75% of adults in the European Union are fully vaccinated. We have delivered more than 850 million doses to European citizens. And in parallel, we have shipped more than 1 billion doses to the rest of the world. We were the only region to do that. I promised that every second dose produced in Europe will be exported. And we kept that promise and delivered to 150 countries so far. So this was European solidarity at its best. And there's a second success story. Thanks to the European Digital COVID Certificate, travel is possible again. 43 countries from 4 continents logged into our digital certificate, and 27 more are lining up to join. But we are not out of the woods yet. The year since we last saw each other has been unbelievably hard. And at the same time, it has been very enlightening and incredibly productive. Politicians and the public have understood that national solutions alone are not enough to fight a pandemic. And even more importantly, we have understood that mutual preparedness is everything in a global health crisis. The European Union drew its lessons and acted. We have created a new Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, in short, HERA. HERA's task is to better prepare for health emergencies, to detect them promptly, and to respond collectively. Its scope reaches from the collective procurement of protective equipment, for example, medicines and vaccines, to coordinating the rules for testing and quarantine. HERA is ready to launch early next year. Now, what are the tasks of this new authority? In normal times, we call this the preparedness phase. In normal times, HERA will work to assess health threats. For example, to detect them at an early stage, including by innovative methods. For instance, today we can predict the spread of COVID-19 in a community by monitoring the wastewater. So HERA will invest in that, in sharing data throughout the new European health data space, and in assessing new and emerging biological threats, such as those connected, for example, to the melting of permafrost or the destruction of biodiversity. Or take the increasing threat of antimicrobial resistance. While the world is still focused on fighting COVID-19, this risk is progressing silently. And if our medicines do not work anymore, many lives will be lost. But we need to see even further. Bioterrorism, or the unintentional release of pathogens, are real scenarios that require better preparedness as well. HERA will make use of all the available knowledge and intelligence. And HERA's task is to identify threats early on and to make sure that we have the necessary medical countermeasures available. HERA will be a watchtower safeguarding public health. Now, in crisis times, HERA will be given special powers. For instance, to coordinate action with our member states through a health crisis board, because we need fast and decisive decision-making. Or, for example, to procure medical equipment, medicines, vaccines, or even critical raw materials, just to tackle the crisis. HERA will support the development of state-of-the-art diagnostics that can be readily modified, but also high-end medical devices, such as, for example, the next generation of portable ventilators. And HERA will work on new, flexible technologies for even better vaccines. So you all know the demand is huge. HERA will help to bridge gaps in the existing European health system and to take cooperation to a new level. Let me give you some examples. It will work on pan-European clinical trials. It will create a network of European production sites for critical medical countermeasures, which then can be activated quickly in case of emergency. And it will work with private companies to address the bottlenecks in our supply chains. In early 2022, we will launch work on ever-ready industrial production capacities, so to manufacture vaccines and medicines rapidly in case of a crisis. And finally, I don't need to explain to you that global cooperation is vital. Cross-border health threats need cross-border responses. So HERA's horizon will be wider than our union. Another of HERA's core tasks will be to join forces with its international counterparts. We have already started to build bridges to the work of the WHO and of BARDA in the United States. We are in contact with third countries in our neighborhood, such as the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and the Western Balkan countries. Our aim is to form a core group that will lead to a truly global network of HERAs. And more will come with the African CDC, with the future African Medicines Agency, and of course with other global players such as CEPI, Gavi, and the philanthropic foundations. Beyond such cooperation, I am convinced that we need a global standard for health preparedness. And this is why I organized, together with the G20, the Global Health Summit in Rome earlier this year. With the Rome Declaration, the world has endorsed a set of guiding principles for global preparedness. And preparedness is now at the center of our union's action. And of course, the importance of this new endeavor must also be reflected in its resources. Therefore, I have proposed an unprecedented €50 billion budget over 7 years for our health preparedness mission. Our union, our member states, and of course the private sector have a role to play and a contribution to make. Europe stands ready to contribute and invest in pandemic preparedness at home and worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, for over 20 years now, the World Health Summit has been at the spearhead of international cooperation on health. And today, finally, there is broad consensus. We must improve our preparedness and our ability to respond to health crisis. So let's make it happen. I wish all of you a very fruitful World Health Summit. Thank you very much.